Hey everyone, so here's a follow-up on the old UAZ. Because in the last video I ended up going over the entire ignition system in this, but that was actually not even what I set out to do. But if that's something you want to see, I'm gonna leave a link in the description and also up here. But the thing is, I haven't been driving this in, well, about 2 months now, because last time I did, I realized it didn't have brakes anymore. And back then I had a quick look underneath, and it seemed like the master cylinder was just leaking pretty badly. So let's do something about that. Okay, so on the newer ones of this that have dual circuit brakes and also hydraulic clutches, the master cylinders would be inside the engine room on the firewall right in front of the driver, just like on many other cars. But this is a very early model, and on this it has single circuit brakes, and also the pedal setup and cylinder setup is actually very similar to that of an old Willys Jeep. And there's actually a good reason for that, because this Soviet car is actually a descendant of the American Jeep. I know a claim like that is probably going to need a little explanation. So the thing is, before it was this, it was the Gas 69. Now don't let the name change fool you. This was the Soviet Union. They didn't do brands like we know them. They would typically just name things after the factory that built them. So before the 69, it was the Gas 67, and that is the Soviets' version of the Jeep. And that was directly based on American Willys Jeeps that were given to the Soviet Union in the last part of the Second World War. And a lot of the design from back then has actually carried on through to this model. Now this is all a bit off topic. Point is that to get to the master cylinder, I'm actually going to have to get underneath. So I'm just gonna jack up the front of this just to give myself a little more room and also make it a little bit easier to film this. I can just show you, well, I have carpets and stuff in here. Normally it's just bare metal. But if we get this out of the way, then down here on the driver's side footwell is a little panel, and that's where you get access to the master cylinder for when you have to fill it. And there it is. Let's just have a look down in here. Yeah, that is just full of empty. Nice. So we're definitely losing that fluid somewhere. Alright, we are underneath now. I should really get a lift. Anyway, that is definitely been leaking. Let's just have a quick look at the wheels, because if we have a leaking wheel cylinder, the whole bottom part here is just going to be wet. But this one seems to be alright. And that one is alright. This one is alright. And that one's alright. Okay. So it doesn't seem like we have any issues with the wheel cylinders. So it's probably just this master cylinder. Let's go ahead and get that off. Let's hope this comes loose and it doesn't just twist the pipe. No, it's twisting the pipe. See if we can work this loose. Maybe. I think we got it. There's a lot of rusty stuff coming out of this. Get that loose. So it's actually not necessary to take this plunger linkage here off, but I'm going to anyway because I really want to clean up these threads and get this nut moving, because this is what you use to adjust the slack in the pedal. Just gonna take the return spring off up here. Gives me a little more room. This is just held in with a homemade pin. That's very comforting. Yeah. I guess it wasn't going anywhere. Alright. Just going to start with this. See if we can loosen this up and get it clean. Yeah. Alright. Alright, this was actually not bad. Okay, well this all came apart and cleaned up pretty easy. For now, I'm just going to screw it back into where it was before, and then we'll see if that has to change once I have everything back together. Okay, so as for the master cylinder itself, I could take this apart and I could also get a new overhaul kit with new gaskets and such. But the thing is, parts for these Russian cars are just so cheap that I did the easy thing and just bought a new unit. So the thing is, with this stuff being so cheap, the biggest problem is actually the time it takes for me to get it. So if it turned out that it wasn't just the gaskets in this, I would have to wait another 2 weeks to get a new one. So I just bought this right away. So yeah, all I really have to do is unplug this. Actually, that may not be a plug. Maybe I have to go and make a hole in that. We'll see. And I just have to move over this little adapter piece for the brake line. And this thing should be ready to go right in. Well, this part is plastic. I wonder, oh, okay, it is a plug. It just looked like it was one piece. Okay, nice. Get a new copper washer onto that. You know, I'm thinking I should probably just give this a really quick paint job. Not that the looks really matter down there, but this is just raw cast steel. I think it feels a little wrong to just put it on like this, because in our climate this is going to turn really rusty and ugly in just a few days. So yeah, I think I'm just going to do that. So while that dries up, I have another little leftover project from the last video, because I have some wiring to clean up in here. So just in case you didn't see the last video, I just put in this wire as a black one because I didn't have any green wire on hand, but I do now, and this one is supposed to be green, at least for this stuff to match with the diagrams. So I'm gonna replace that with a green, and we're gonna just get all this tied up and shortened down if needed, just to make it all look nice and pretty. Get this one out of the way. Okay. So normally I would like to run something like this in some kind of flex tubing or something, but these all end in different locations, so that's going to be a little weird anyways. I'm just going to do the easy thing and just tape wrap this and just get it nicely tucked up there. It's going to end up looking like a Peugeot or something. But it's still better than all those wires everywhere. Okay, that is good enough for me, at least for what we're doing here. I also wanted some shorter plug leads, and I actually found some that I just had lying around, so I'm gonna get those in here and clean this up a little bit as well. Just gonna keep 3 and 4 because they are not that excessive. Put this in as number 1, and this as number 2. Just gonna do some zip tie wire holders or wire spacers because it actually doesn't look half bad, and this is also just that kind of car anyway. Alright, well this is definitely cleaner than it was, and also good enough for me. Okay, enough of that, let's get back to those brakes. This stuff is looking pretty good now. Now it has at least a little bit of protection from the elements. Also went ahead and found a couple new bolts for it, because the old ones were looking pretty tired and the heads were almost rounded off. So yeah, let's go ahead and get this stuff in. So I'm gonna have to put the bolts in the cylinder before I actually mount it up here, because there's not room for them otherwise, because it's so close to the fuel tank right here. Get those in there, and see if we can catch these threads. Yeah. Click. And click. Okay. I'm going to put the return spring back on the pedal here, so I don't have to fight that. Maybe I should have put that in before mounting the cylinder. Ah, there we go. And we're just gonna give that little washer in here, and also a slightly more correct pin. Okay, that should do it. I just want to check if we have that tiny bit of play, and there's not. I can feel it engages the cylinder down there right away. I just want to adjust this pin a little bit, loosen up this lock nut for now, and then we'll just do, let's say, half a turn. Gonna be right around there. Let's check this again. Yeah, okay, that was all it took. Now it has just that tiny bit of movement before it actually starts engaging that cylinder. This is just to make sure we have all the travel available in the cylinder, and also of course to make sure it gets all the way back so it's able to let fresh fluid in there. So we'll just lock this back up and then it should be good. Alright, now brake fluid. I haven't actually been able to find anything that says exactly what these old ones are supposed to have in them, but because everything is so Jeep-like, I'm guessing it's some equivalent to .3. But I'm not going to be using that, I'm going to be using .5. Not 5.1, just 5. And this is a silicone-based brake fluid. This stuff is often used in motorsports because it has a slightly higher boiling point, but that's obviously not what I'm after with a car like this. But silicone brake fluid is often used in military vehicles as well, and that's for the same reason that I'm using it. Because it is silicone, it doesn't really absorb moisture in the same way, so it's a little better suited for, well, military vehicles and also these old collectibles that you don't really drive all that much. And also, because it's silicone, it doesn't have all those corrosive elements. So, well, first of all, it doesn't eat the paint, and that in itself is just really nice. But also, you can use it in pretty much any brake system because it won't eat the rubber parts inside either. Now, one of the downsides is it doesn't mix with any of the other fluids. So, if this already has like .3 or 4 in it, I'm gonna have to flush this all the way through so that I'm only running this. So, let's do that. So luckily this stuff has a pretty wild color, so should be easy enough to see when we're getting it out of the wheel cylinders. Already getting some of the air coming out of there. This should be good. Just gonna go and get it started. Get some of it in there. It's always easier to bleed the brakes when you have an extra person here to help you out, to have them push the pedal. But I'm on my own today, so I'm just gonna do it the very slow way. At least I'm not in a hurry. So I'm just gonna crack open the bleed screws on the wheel cylinders, and I'm just gonna let gravity do the work. So all I'm doing is just, well, I'll get a wrench on here just so I can open it, and a hose so we don't spill everywhere. That's going to be dripping into a tray down here, and we'll just crack these open. We'll just let that flow. And I'm going to do this on all 4 wheels. Oh, hello. This is not really the best place to hang out, my friend. So I suppose I can just show you the front real quick. What is this? Okay, this actually has 2 bleed screws on the front. There's one right there, and there's another one right there. And that's because these have 2 wheel cylinders. There's one in the bottom moving, I think it's the front brake shoe. I could be wrong. Anyway, they move 1 brake shoe each. It's actually just a really simple way to have a little more brake force up here than in the rear, because you want your fronts braking a little bit harder than the rear ones. But it's just divided by a T-piece up here on the upper one. So I'm just going to start by letting fluid out of the bottom one. That should fill up most of it. And then once that's all done, I'm just going to go up and loosen that top one just to make sure that we have the purple stuff up there as well. I can hear the air coming out of that one. This might end up taking an eternity, but it's just about dinner time anyway. Alright, it's probably going to be really difficult to tell on camera, but now we have the purple stuff coming out here, so we should be flushed all the way through. Now I know this is not a perfect flush, but it should be good enough. Right, so let's try out that pedal. Oh yeah, that feels right. Nice. Let's just get this topped off, and then we'll go and test all this new stuff in the most reasonable way I can think of. This immediately put it in a pretty hopeless spot because that wheel is not touching anything, and that wheel is not touching anything. And because I don't have lockers, it's just going to be spinning those two wheels, so we're not getting out of this one. It's going to need a little bit of assistance. You know what would be funny? If we get the Americans to drag it out. I know you're not really supposed to be recovering on these hooks, but it's not really stuck. It just needs some help to get back to where it has some traction, so we're not gonna have some huge forces pulling on that hook, so it'll be all right. Okay, well, I wanted to get a different angle, but it turns out I didn't hit record, but really I just started up the UAZ and backed it up the last bit of way on its own power, so it wasn't really a big deal anyway. And it seems like we haven't broken anything, so you know what that means? We can try again, but I'm gonna leave that boy nearby. Okay, so clearly this was not my plan, but my problem right now is this: you can't really tell on camera, but this hole actually gets really deep right here in this corner. It's like 1 meter deep, and it's just sliding this way, and I don't really want to push it any further because eventually I'll get the engine underwater, and that's just gonna destroy the whole thing. Oh no, my license plate. This gave me a slightly different problem. It's quite a way out there to hook it on. That's not gonna work. So cold. This water had ice on it. Right, Humvee is just slipping now, so let's just see if it can redeem itself by at least driving out the last bit. That. There we go. Good as new. Anyway, this is turning into a bad idea, so let's just quit while we're ahead. So I kind of forgot how fun these things are to drive. I really love the rugged simplicity of these. But anyway, those brakes seem to be working just fine. It is of course a little bit too slippery out here to really test them out, so I'm gonna have to do some road driving to feel if it's braking straight from side to side. But I don't really want to take these on the road here in the winter time because we use a lot of salt on the roads here, and these old cars don't really like that. Well, no cars do. But also, that upgraded ignition stuff that I did, that actually seems to have really done some wonders to that engine, because this is just much more lively than it ever was. So this is all really good. So mechanically, this was a pretty simple project, but I figured some of you wanted to see it. And at least I got to have some fun in the end. But now I'm gonna go and dry my shoes, so thanks for watching and we'll see you in the next one.